Shabbat Shalom. I wanted to share with you 3 dreams I had. Um, Sorry, I'm really stopped up. I can hardly breathe. Because I have chickens in here. Anyway, I have to wear this to cover my eyes because I get really bad migraines. So excuse me. Anyway, um, so um, the first dream, I had actually, well, 3 dreams having to do with end times, and then I had another set of dreams that were like spiritual warfare dreams, preparing me for demonic cleansing, cleansing of demons, and it's very interesting. But the first of the 3 dreams of the end times was the beginning of the first. We were in, my mom and I were in King Soopers. Actually, this is in Colorado, and there was like a hill that kind of, from the store, there was kind of like a hill, and in the dream, it was like it was very cloudy, and the lights, there was lights that lit up the clouds that look like, I just see these lights coming up over this hill, lighting up the clouds, and I'm kind of laughing to myself and teasing and going, oh, it's aliens, in the dream. I literally said that in the dream. And then heard this like big rumbling noise, and the doors shut, even though there were air doors, those air doors that, they look like they never shut, that they have in some supermarkets. And I even went and looked to see if it actually shut, because in the dream it shut. And it was, we were in the store, and the door shut, and then we hear this rumbling, and it was kind of like an earthquake or something. And the doors came open, and there was a Black Ops or Black Hawk helicopter. I think it's Black Hawk, and it was a black helicopter, and it was a military helicopter, and it was in the parking lot, and there was a tent set up, and there was 2 soldiers on each side of the door, and they wouldn't let us out. They made us line up in 2 lines, and they would not let us out of the store until we got this like temporary mark. And the soldiers were like, there was 2 soldiers at the door with guns. They were keeping people from leaving or coming, and then there was other soldiers, and they had a gun, a scanner, and they were scanning, like rescanning the hands, making sure everything went through. And like one didn't work, so we had to stop and rescan it and stuff like that. And the people that didn't take it were put in a line, and their shoes were taken away, and so they couldn't run. And I told my mom, I'm not taking it. I'm not going to do it. And was a very nervous, kind of skittish person that couldn't make up her mind when she got nervous. And she'd like, and she would always like do something more out of pressure. Like she felt pressure to do something, she'd do it. And sometimes, even though it was something she didn't want to do. And so I said, well, Mom, I said, I'm not going to take it. Please don't take it, and so she's like, I don't know, and she didn't want to. I know that she didn't, but she was scared. And I just sit my hair up in this. So, you can hear the rooster in the bathroom. He's exercising. Anyway, so, this is really freaky. The stream was so graphic, and it was like a movie. It was not like bits and parts or changing, and it wasn't like weird things, and it was just like a movie. And so my mom, it didn't break up or anything. It was fully all the way through. And anyway, so my mom went, okay, so she was ahead of me, and she took the mark. And I was like, and then she felt like, no, I don't want to do it. And so she went to this tent that was set up on the side of the parking lot, and went over there to tell them she didn't want it after all, and they were drug her out, beating her and carrying her away, and were beating her. It was horrible, and I'm just like in shock or something. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't. I don't know. I was just scared, and but I didn't take the mark, and I got in the line, and they took my shoes. So the people that didn't take the mark, they took them up to this like library. I remember it was up like at the Rocky Mountain National Park. There's like a YMCA, and I'm sorry, yeah, in the mountains there's a YMCA in the mountains, and so it was almost like a place like that, and we were in this room, kind of like a library that had like an area with chairs. There were folding chairs. There were um, metal folding chairs, and there was a bunch of them set out for people that didn't take the mark, and they were all sitting there. We were all sitting there, and there was guards at the back door, guard in the front door, and it was like I was put above it. I was just sitting up, and then I was like raised up above the area, looking down, and I could see it had like a pebble parking lot, but it was like a drop off, and it dropped off around the parking lot. So though like nobody could run, okay, basically because it was a drop off, and you could, and we didn't. They took our shoes too. So, and I remember telling the guy, because this is like when I fell away for a minute, because after this is a long time ago, but and all this happened and I started having these dreams, and I fell away. And anyway, but I told the guy I knew this was gonna happen, and I knew it was gonna happen, and I wish I'd been ready. I knew it, and I should have been ready, and that's basically was telling me that I was not prepared spiritually at the time because I wasn't. This is before I became celibate and stuff. So anyway, I realized I was not even converted because I wanted to make something. This is very important that people don't know about. In Acts 15:19 through 21, it says, for Gentiles that want to convert to God, to make it easier on them, basically, so they're not overwhelmed, to tell them to just, for starters, to tell them to abstain from sexual immorality, from idolatry, from eating blood, because that's the blood is the life, and from eating anything strangled. And he says, for Moses' law is taught in the cities, or God's law, that's the faith, and it's taught in all the cities on the synagogues and the Sabbath, in the synagogues and the Sabbath day. Okay, meaning, tell them to abstain from these things, for they'll learn it in the synagogues, because that's where the law of God only was, because at the time, before Rome took over and pillaged everything and they stole the law and prophets, and then it was retranslated through them, even though it was retranslated what they stole, and some of the books taken out and stuff like that, but it was been spread all over the earth. Okay, so the Bible has been actually through that whole thing that the Lord the Lord went, used that negative time of them doing that to Israel, and it was a time of discipline, sadly, but using that for the good, that he spread his word through it. So there was some words added that Rome added that make it look like it's teaching their practices, and that's why he says seek it. When you read the scriptures, the prophecies, the prophets repeat themselves over and over and over, and they all say the same thing. They all prophesy the same thing. So it's really beautiful, because that's how you know it's true. So it's repeating itself over and over and over. So you can see when there's inconsistencies, like whenever it says Passover unleavened bread from beginning to end, and then they put Easter in one spot, like they did in the King James, and then they took it out in the New King James. So anyway, it's simple, really, if you just study it and read it and pray for understanding, and he'll give it to you. He doesn't, withhold from those that are seeking him. So, that have a true desire to seek him and know him in their heart. He will not withhold that from them. Anyway, second dream. Oh yeah, no, I'm sorry. Let me finish that. Let me just finish this real quick though. The point I was telling you that was that. So he says that people are to convert. Period. Convert. To convert, we must abstain from sexual morality. So I wasn't converted because I was actually engaged, but I mean, sort of engaged, and well, I was engaged, and we were planning on getting married, but I was still with the guy, and you know, having sex and stuff, and then it turned out to be a very dark thing that was something that I couldn't handle, and I broke up the engagement. I stopped it, and I just separated from everybody, and it was just not right, and I figured that out after 3 years, but I was still in sexual morality, and I think because the whole thing was because you can defile the marriage bed too, and if it's lustful, if it's just gross, disgusting, lustful things that are just gross, and that's defiling the marriage bed. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. There's just bad things, bad sexual things, and so that can defile a marriage bed too, and it shouldn't be in a marriage bed. So anyway, so that's what I'm saying is that we're not converted if we are in sexual immorality or idolatry, which, okay, also, sexual immorality also, Yehoshua or Joshua, Jesus, okay, his name is Joshua the high priest, okay, the second one, he said in Matthew 5, I think it's 26, that if somebody lusts in their heart after another, that's committing the same act as adultery. As adultery. So if you're lusting after somebody, it's the same act as actually committing adultery with somebody. You're breaking that marriage covenant with him and also with the person you're married with. So, because he doesn't want us to commit adultery, he wants us to be in a pure state of mind like a child. Because that's why he says, like, we can't even enter heaven unless we're in the mindset of a child. And because there's no sin, there's no darkness in heaven, in the kingdom of heaven, and we must be in that mind state, that state of mind of like being like a child. And all those dark things are not a part of his world, and he doesn't want them there. And I don't blame him. I can understand that. The world is a place of contamination and darkness and yickiness. Yuck. And it's like when I think about a baby being exposed to it, it makes me sick. Really, it does. Because I was like that. I remember myself as 3 years old, and I loved everybody. I wanted to hug everybody. I was full of so much love. And then after certain things happened, like at 8 years old, I turned, boom, I was angry. My parents divorced, and I was so angry, and it was after that, I had so much anger about it and upset about it, that's like, things entered me, and things that were not appropriate, thoughts that were not appropriate for a child at that age, and it was scary. When I think about what happened and how contaminated I became at that point. And started thinking about things and trying to do things at that time that were not appropriate, and kept doing it till I changed. He changed me, and it's like he sought me out, and but I had to ask for him. I asked him into my heart. I didn't understand that after the age of accountability, we need to call on him, we need to seek him. And I asked him into my heart. I asked Yeshua into my heart, and this was like 3 weeks later. I was going to kill myself. I'm going to go ahead and tell you my testimony. And I had to put my daughter up for adoption. I did not want to. I was just out of my mind without her, and I just can't stand living without her. I just felt like such a failure to her, and I missed her so bad, and I was worried about her, and I was just out of my mind, and I was so depressed I couldn't work. I just couldn't function, and I was going to end my life, and I was planning out my death, and I heard the voice of Yeshua, and it was filled the room. It was just so wow. It was so neat and strange sounding. It was like a bunch of something, and I could hear it, and it was just beautiful. but weird. And it was calming, but he spoke in like Aramaic, but he said, I understood what he said. And um, and as soon as he spoke, I heard a knock at the door, and he was said that this guy is going to ask you to marry him. You need to do it. Go with him. So this guy I haven't seen in a while, it's out of nowhere, comes up and asks me out to lunch. And I didn't know him that well. I mean, I kind of knew him, sort of kind of knew him, but I didn't know him that well. I hadn't seen him in like a year, and like dated him for a couple months before that, but before that year. But it was still like, not real that well. Anyway, he was training to be a pastor during that year, and he was hearing God because God told him to come ask me to marry him, out of nowhere. And he did. He heard him. And Jesus, set this up. He set this up. And I as soon as he said that this guy's going to marry, he's going to ask you to marry him, you need to do it. I hear a knock at the door. And he's at the door out of nowhere. I hadn't seen him in like a couple times in a year. And he just comes up and he's like, let's go to lunch. Would you like to go to lunch? And I said, okay. And so he takes me to lunch at Pizza Hut. And then he asked me to marry him. And I was like, what? And he did. And it was awesome. I was so happy. And it was he sent him to take care of me. I couldn't work, and he worked. He took care of me, and he prayed over me, and he was trying to do right. And it makes me so mad at myself as I became arrogant. This is something that says, don't ever put asunder what God puts together. I didn't say that probably right, but I became prideful. I got attacked so bad, and we both did, and he got hit with a lot of problems, like bad thoughts, he was getting attacked, and I was getting attacked. And, he was trying so hard to help me come out of this oppression I was in. And we didn't know how to pray. He prayed for me. He really did. I didn't know how to pray for him. He needed support. And, I think we spoke things into existence that were not supposed to be spoken. We allowed old ways to. We did not actually give up the fullness of the old ways that we were supposed to give up, so that we could take on the commandments of God, because that's our new way of coping. That's the faith we're converting to. We didn't actually convert at that point. We were working on it, and we had accepted him. But the point we accept that Yeshua is to convert to his Father's commandments. We hadn't converted all the way. We had not let go of the things of the past, that the ways we dealt with things we didn't let go of. I was calling men when I got upset. I was calling my ex-boyfriend and talking to him when I shouldn't have been doing that. That's the way I coped with things back in the past. But when you get married and you also are supposed to be converting to the God of Israel, you're supposed to release our old ways and die to them, and we didn't die to them. That was the problem. And it came back and bit us in the butt, or the bottom, sorry. And so, when I heard him, after he spoke to me, I said, please teach me your ways. Teach me who you are. Teach me who God is. Because I was raised Catholic. I didn't know anything about God. I didn't know anything. I didn't know squat. And so I didn't know you're supposed to ask him into your heart. And Jesus, and I didn't know you're supposed to, I didn't know the faith at all, because Rome banned it. That's why. And so they've been mocking the faith all this time. And so anyway, they're mocking the Passover. They're mocking the high priest order. They're mocking all of this, saying they're the way to God, and it is not true. There is only one way to God, and that is through Yeshua, Jesus, and he's the only high priest that God ordained to be the way that he knew Rome was going to ban all the ways of conversion and the feast of conversion, and he sent his son to be the conversion and the circumcision, the spiritual circumcision, the high priest and the tabernacle that we need to convert. So anybody can call on anywhere you're at. Okay, so because he knew Rome was going to ban the whole system and destroy the tabernacle was going to be destroyed, he knew all this was going to be just all the physical ways of conversion were going to be removed. So suspended. He says it's even going to be like, he says the new moons and Sabbaths were going to be they would be stilled. They wouldn't be kept because Rome wouldn't let them. The enemy wouldn't let them. And whenever Israel sinned against God, the enemy was allowed to mess with them and attack them to bring them to repentance. And this is basically the reason why that Rome was allowed to do this. And he promised them, because he always told them, if you just listen to me, follow me, I'll take care of you. If you turn against me, well, this is going to happen and this is going to happen. But I'm going to love you. I'm going to try to bring you back to me. It's because I'm pleading with you to come back, So he's doing everything he does. He disciplines those he loves. And that's what he says. So I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. I divorced my husband out of pride because the enemy makes you think like, oh, you deserve better than this. Whenever you find out things about your husband or your mate that you think makes you feel uncomfortable or whatever. And you know what? God had put that marriage together, and that's what I should have remembered and focused on, but I didn't. And I became arrogant, prideful, and I turned my back on my husband. And I should have never done that. I should have been praying for him. I should have been, but I didn't. I became selfish and self-seeking, and you can't do that in a marriage. You can't do that with God either. It's a marriage that we're entering with God, a marriage covenant. So the second marriage covenant in Judaism. And everything that you hear about God is actually like Rome is all Jewish, that Rome labeled Christian. So it's not. It's Jewish. It's all like Hebrew Jewish history. And the history, the genealogy of all the Israel. I mean, to the birth of Yeshua, to his Jesus. From Adam to his birth, to Jesus' birth is documented. I mean, so that's in Luke chapter 2. So Matthew 1 is from King David to Jesus. So proving his genealogy. So there's two genealogies, the same genealogy, but two different documentations about it. And that's in Lucas, okay, if you can say it, Lucas in Hebrew. It's in Lucas in Hebrew, but in Greek, because the God of Israel prophesied that he would speak to these, talking in Isaiah 28, that he would speak to these with stuttering lips and in another tongue. Okay, that's why these later books are in Greek, but they're Greek-speaking Jews. They're speaking to the nations, to the synagogues in the nations, and at that time Rome had taken over, and the main, like all the main language that was Greco-Roman, and so they had taken over all these nations. Rome did, and so that's why they're written to the Greek Greco-Roman language. These later letters, they're writing to the synagogues in Antioch and Colossae and Philippi, and okay, I'm probably not saying that right exactly, but you know what I'm saying. So they're all synagogues, and then there's Gentiles going to the synagogues and learning, and then they're breaking off in groups and assembling all together, but assembling in homes after a while because they were kicked out of Rome. They started kicking out the Jews in Rome, and it talks about that whenever, I think it's Claudius Caesar took over. And that's, I think it's an Acts somewhere. I gotta find that. But, okay, back to what I was saying. Okay. Oh, one more thing. It says that the term Christian is actually the term that they used for the Jews in the faith of Judaism. Okay, they're going to the cities talking about in the synagogues over there, and they're explaining, and they're doing miracles, they're performing miracles, and they're doing it in the name of this Messiah that was promised to Israel. And so they are, doing these things, and these other people are calling them Christianos in the Greek term, Christianic, or Messiah followers, okay? So that's where that term Christian came from. It's the Greek term for the Jews in Judaism, okay? They're in the faith Judaism, they're talking about the Messiah of Judaism, okay? So that's where the term Christian came from, that they were called at that time, and in Greece. So that's where that came. But now Rome, Constantine, took that term and turned it into Christianity, and put that name on his Roman canons that banned the actual Judaism. So that's what the confusion is. There is so much confusion, but all you got to do is look at history. Constantine banned Judaism. He banned the biblical faith, which is Judaism, and it's not the Judaism taught today, because that they hasn't been allowed since that time he banned it. There was other teachings. The solar calendar of Rome was enforced by death, and so Rome made Israel keep that, and they put it in this fake solar lunar calendar. Okay, this is all in doctrine of this guy Hillel. That is, he denounced Torah. He denounced the God of Israel and converted to Rome. And so his teachings are actually what Rome is. It's like Rome did not allow the truth to be taught. So they allowed this guy to come in and act like he was the Sanhedrin still, but he wasn't, because he denounced the Torah and denounced the Messiah and the God of Israel. And he's not a convert. Get that? He's not a convert. So anybody that denounces the God of Israel, that denounces the Torah, is not a convert. Okay? So we shouldn't be going by their teachings. Israel should not be going by his teachings, but they are. And that's why you have to be very careful. That's why they need to get back to Torah. They need to get in it themselves and stop listening to man's teachings, all the teachings that are going on right now. They got to get out of it. It is idolatry. And so that's what Rome's intention was to keep Israel in idolatry, out of conversion, because their whole point was to stop conversion to God, to the God of Israel, and to ban the Torah, ban the ways of conversion. And they even claimed that the Messiah of Israel, the only way that God sent to convert Israel, after they banned the Feast of Conversion and everything, that's why he sent his adopted son, the son of David, to be the way to convert to him, okay? But what they did is they told the Israel, that the later generations, that he this is also Hillel saying this, which is a lie, because he did it. He's the one who converted to Rome, not Yeshua. They kept saying that Yeshua converted to Rome. Well, he did not. He absolutely did not. He died before Rome took over, and he died to be the offering for Israel, because he knew Rome. They knew Rome was going to do with this, and after he died and was resurrected, just like Elisha raised that little boy for, that lady that built a room for him. God raised him from the dead. Okay, God can do it. It's God gives him the power to do anything. It's not, that's his power that he gives people to do it. So, it makes me upset that, I was a convert, and I see these things, and Israel doesn't see them, because they're not in the Torah. They're not listening to Torah. They're not studying Torah. They're studying men's teachings instead of Torah. So when there's man's teachings and man's traditions and man's things into it, it is not of God. It is idolatry. So they have got to come out of this idolatry. They've got to come out of the star and stop using that star it's a star of Saturn that Rome has. The Pope has it on his hat. It was called the Star of Chiun, or whatever, of their god a long time ago, their ancient whatever god. And the thing is they've got to get this away. It is idolatry. This is exactly mentioned. This is like that. He says they are they're the tabernacle of Moloch and Chiyun, I think, and the star had the chart and carry the star of Chiyun, and it says, and I will take them away into captivity. It's in Isaiah. I'm sorry, forgive me, wrong. Amos 5:26, I think. I might be wrong. But look up Amos chapter 5, and I think it's 5. It might be 5 to 16, but 5:16 maybe. But just look it up. Chapter 5, Amos chapter 5, and read it because he's talking about the star. The star was the Star of Solomon that he used for witchcraft. And, yeah, it's not good. And right now, these guys are using it. There was a guy that was into Satanism a long time ago. I got out of it, I guess, and he said they used it for that kind of stuff, for calling demons. So those are fallen angels. Same thing. So it's bad. Get it out of your house. Get it off you. Get it out of there. Don't sell it. Don't take money for it. Just get rid of it. It doesn't matter if it's gold. Get rid of. Keep the chain. Whatever. Fine. But just get rid of the star. Okay. And don't sell it to anybody else, because just throw it away. It is an idol. Okay. So I returned to God after I fell away, and not only that, he brought my daughter back to me. Okay, I've been celibate for 12 years. I gave my life to know his Torah. I dedicated myself to know his truth, the truth, who he is, his word. And so, okay, so I had the dreams from starting from when I fell away and was starting to come back, trying to, okay, so I'm going to go into the second dream. The second dream is, okay, that's when I was living over there in Mike's house. I got a pet sitting job for 12 years. He lived outside the U.S. And so this is when I was celibate. I was in the house. I had a dream. I was sitting above the house, and like almost like in a lotus position, I guess is what you call it. Or I like it the Indian Indian position, I guess what they call it, but without being offensive. So I'm sitting over, basically like hovering over the house, sitting there, and I see, like, I guess it's basically, I want to say it's meteors or just a bunch of rocks, huge rocks falling. I mean, just a bunch of them. And there's a whole bunch coming down, and they're hitting the base of the mountains. They're hitting the houses, the roofs of the houses. They're just boom, 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 boom. And I could see the base of the mountains right there. Just because, like, where the street we lived on, you just go at the end of the street and you see the base of the mountains. And it was like I could see past the houses. I was sitting on top of the houses floating. And I could just see the mountains there, and all of these meteors or whatever hitting the mountains, just boom, 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 hitting the houses and holes, making a hole in the house. And all of a sudden I got scared, and I was back in the house again, and I was like, I gotta get in the basement. And so I'm like hiding in the basement, trying to get away from these rocks, get in the corner edge, the bottom part of the basement, trying to get away from these things. And it was black after that. Okay, that was the second dream. And then the third dream, this is before I moved to Oklahoma. I didn't know I was going to be moving to Oklahoma right at this point. I had wanted to, I really didn't want to go back, but I wanted to be with my family. Yes, I was homesick for my family, really just homesick. And I felt, it was weird because I felt the urge, like God was telling me I have to go home. And so this third dream, in the dream, I'm living here in Oklahoma before I moved here. I didn't know I was going to be moving here because I had talked to Mike, and see the dog sitting job was supposed to last for 2021? I think. And I left in 2017, I think. Um, so he was, because I was supposed to stay there till later, but I couldn't do it. I had to be with I had to go, and I knew God was telling me I had to go now. So before this, though, I had this dream where I was here. I moved already in the dream. I live in Oklahoma, and I'm going to the mall, the Penn Square Mall, which was I used to go with my dad all the time, and in the dream I'm with my dad, my stepmom, and of course it's later in the future. It's like after I had moved here. In the dream, I had already moved here, and we were going to the mall and walking in, and then all of a sudden this earthquake hit. And it's like we were outside just getting ready to go in, and this earthquake hit, and I looked up, and you could see, it was like daylight, but the stars were falling. You could see the star coming through or something. You know what I'm saying? It was coming down, and um, this earthquake was huge, and it wasn't just where it just shook the building. It was all the buildings were like it was just throwing. It was throwing buildings. It was throwing and leveling everything. And I didn't know this was actually in scripture, word like exactly in that order, until recently, because it says there would be a huge, like an earthquake, like the heavens would be having to shake even, and the stars would fall. Okay, and I was like, wow, when I saw it, because I just recently saw that. But yeah, in the dream, there's just this earthquake is just beyond crazy. Well, when I moved here, then I moved, we moved here because, like, and this is another miracle in itself, because I felt God was saying, we have to go now. We have to move. We have to move. We have to move. And it was like a pulling, I have to go. And I said, okay, Lord, okay. I told my mom, and she had just bought a house like not too long ago. She'd been there like 5 years, I think, and or 3 years, 3 to 5 years, and my grandma was like, everything's fine. I said, first of all, it's something to do with Grandpa. I don't know what it is, but something to do with Grandpa. And my mom told my grandma about what I said, and my grandma's like, it'd be a sin for you to sell the house that you love so much and come here. And Grandpa's just fine, da 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 da. And my mom was like, I hate Oklahoma. Don't ever talk to me about Oklahoma. I'll kill you. So she was like, nope, not going to Oklahoma. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And I wasn't fond of it either, but I knew we had to go back. And my, so, oh my gosh. I said, like, okay, Lord, if we're supposed to go back, then you need to help me, please have mama help or change her mind, whatever. And a few days later, she couldn't get out of there fast enough. And I think she either got laid off or she quit her job and sold the house and sold it to the first person, but she got double back what she bought it for. And, because they legalized pot, and so everything went up. And we moved to Oklahoma. My aunt also told my mom, if you're going, then I'll go too. She sold her house. It was like a $600,000 house. My cousins, and they moved. And we all moved at the same time. It was miraculous, okay? Not only as soon as we got here, my grandpa got into an accident. He couldn't drive anymore. Then he had a stroke, and then broke his hip. And what happened after that wasn't right. It was hospice having to do with it, and they basically killed him when he was recovering. I can't talk about it, but my grandma also got bad after that. My daughter was needing me, and I didn't know it, how bad she was, what things she was going through. God brought her back to me, literally, even legally. She was going through hell, and I didn't know it. And my grandmother got sick after that, which she passed away not too long ago. And then my mom got cancer, which just beyond me. I was just, wow. My mom and I were so dependent on each other that even though we didn't talk all the time, we were there, constantly there for each other spiritually. You know, it was like we were spiritually together. It was constantly, but, you we moved into with each other, and I wasn't sure about where I was going to go, or even didn't even know I was going to stay here with her. But she got a house, and we were buying it together. And anyway, I just lost her, and it's the hardest thing, other thing that I've had to go through. But my daughter, he brought back. And after I tried to kill myself, he knew he was going to bring my daughter back to me later, um, and because she found me when she was 16, she found me, and found the family, and it was just, we were allowed to be a part of her, seeing her graduate, and things that were big, huge things that I'm so grateful for. I'm so in awe and shock, and I'm just so grateful. I can't see straight. She's 31 now. Bless her heart. And works hard, and she's an EMT and a volunteer firefighter right now. But anyway, she's amazing. So okay, third dream was about the big earthquake, and like I said, that was the scriptural one that I didn't even know was exactly worded. Like, there's going to be a huge earthquake, then the fires were going to fall. And that was the third one. My mother had a dream about the ocean turning to blood, and the animals were, like the porpoise, were running. They were all running, trying to breathe, and the animals that breathe the air, oxygen in the water, and it was really horrible. She actually was converting in her heart. She was converting herself, and I found letters after she passed away that she was, and struggling with it, but she was, working on it. She was getting really deep into the scriptures, and she just got in the book of Maccabees. She read the book of Enoch just recently, and she was, really excited about it, getting really deep into the word. And right before she passed, and she passed right in front of me. I mean, she died in front of me. It was the most horrible thing. That day, she was actually dealing with anger she had with my grandmother, and she called me, and she was crying, and she was just like, "Can you come over?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." And usually I've been sick where I couldn't all the time, but or she didn't want to have company sometimes. But yeah, I mean, I was like so grateful I was there with her that day, and I was able to try to fix some things for her, and the door and stuff like that, and fix the disposal and stuff like that for her, and had made lunch for her and everything. And so we had a really nice time right before she passed away. It was really nice, at least. But the other extra dreams I had were, this was like when I was engaged to Andrew, and I was going into different houses that had demonic activity, and they had a different demon in every house, and I was cleansing the houses and coming. I would wake up screaming, "Get out in Jesus' name," and I'm screaming it when I wake up. And it was like a different house, and I'm in a different situation, and I'm there like in spirit, watching things happen, and watching these demons do things to these people. It was not okay. Oh, it was really upsetting. And then cleansing the houses as in each one, and it was very powerful, really. And I guess, like he's been preparing me for to be a spiritual warrior, in a sense, because we're all spirits. God is the Lord of all spirits. He is the head of all spirits. I mean, the Lord of all spiritual beings. And he is a spirit, and he dwells in the living tabernacle of his adopted son. And He showed me that recently too. I was like, wow, that's how that works. But it was just really neat, that I'm like, who am I that he would talk to me, that he would speak to me, that he would teach me, that he would love me. I mean, who am I? I was just nobody. I was just a mean, terrible person. I lied. I was a cheater. I was, back in the day, I dated married men. I was just very bad person. I just didn't have any moral. I really cared about people, and I used to care about people and love people, and then I just turned bad. I really did. And I was so corrupted, and I was just, I could feel like a spirit of lust enter me when I was a kid. And I thought of things at 8 years old that I never should think about. And it was not, I mean, like wearing teddies. I wanted to wear teddies. I wanted to dress like a, that. And that is just not okay. It is not okay. We are supposed to be pure, like a child, like a pure baby. I mean, full of love and, with no hate, with no resentment, with no arrogance or pride. Um, those things kill. They really do. They destroy us. They destroy other people too. And I have been guilty of that, of being part of that and hurting people. And I feel so bad. And I want to apologize right now publicly to anybody, all the people I have hurt. And oh my God, I mean, I know there's one person, Talina, that I think about so much all the time. And I almost pushed her to suicide, and it kills me to know that I almost did that, and it was my fault for doing that. And I just wish I could hug her and tell her I'm so sorry for the type of person I was before. I wish I could make it up to her. And somebody else, there was another person I dated whose wife, a couple, um, that I had offended back in the day. So I just want to say I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for hurting you and for being so selfish. And I wish I could change that. I have been celibate for 12 years, and I've devoted myself to know God, His Word, and to be. I wanted to be His, and because I had made men my idol. That's what I did. I made men and myself an idol, and my desires. So I just hope that all of you know that I love you, and I hope you seek Him in truth and righteousness, and seek His Word, and don't listen to man's teachings. Don't listen to the teachings of men right now. Everybody's under the Roman law and the Roman solar months and teaching that, and mixed with some truth. But that's how they get you in. That's how you get deceived, by not knowing the full truth. And the full truth is what we must know as Gentiles, to come into the truth, to be able to serve God in truth and help His people come to the truth, come back actually to the truth, because many have strayed. And that's our job. That's our job and our duty, to Him and to His people that are our brothers and sisters when we convert. So we must just love them and help everybody that wants to know God, to help them get there in truth and righteousness, because we can't convert if it's idolatry. We cannot convert if we're in sexual immorality and lustful, and we can't convert. And so if you need help with that, I just pray that you will ask God to help you with that, and to release all of that lustful nature, to help you, to fill you. And I pray He fills you with the purity, and He fills you with His love, and whatever hole you have in your heart, that He fills that hole right now in Yeshua's name, that He helps you become whole. And I don't care if you're having bisexual thoughts or same-sex thoughts. This is something He did not intend for us, because our bodies are made for making children. Our bodies are created to worship and glorify Him, and that does not glorify Him. That's something He does not want. He hates. Okay, So I'm just going to tell you, not to be mean, I'm just going to tell you, I'm praying for you right now, that if you have been struggling with that, I'm going to ask right now that you pray with me in agreement. And I just lift this person up, Father, to you right now, that you make them whole, completely whole, according to your word, lining up with your word, Father, that you help them to be the person that you desired them to be for your will and your destiny in their life, to bring others to you, Father. And I ask that in Yeshua's name, to please heal them and make them whole, to fill them with your love, all the parts that are missing, put them back together, all the parts that are corrupted and distraught, messed up, then fix it, please, Father, and let's get Yeshua's name. Because you're the one who's our creator, that makes our bodies, that makes our minds, that makes our spirits, and that puts a spirit inside of our bodies. And Father, and you can heal and do anything. And I'm just asking you to do that in Yeshua's name. I lift all those up to you that seek you and call your name, call on your son's name too, and to make them whole and restore them to the way they're supposed to be, and to remove all the demonic thoughts and feelings that they have been, sensations they've been having. I ask that you please protect them from Satan's evil, from his demonic ways, and protect them, Father, in Yeshua's name. Help them fight every second. Just remember, it's a second, every second. Just 1 second. That's all you got to do is focus on this 1 second. Okay? And let him fill you. I want you to put on praise and worship music. I want you to read about his love for you. Okay? I want you to go to blb.org. Now, granted, they don't teach the full truth, but they have a concordance you can look up on the search bar and type in any word, like any part of a scripture, and you'll find it. Usually it'll have a little red box. You click on it and it'll give you options if it's not the exact answer. I use that all the time to study and to help me find scripture, to find parallels of other scriptures, in like Genesis to the prophets to the Revelations. I mean, you can find where it repeats itself in a lot of areas. But so look up I love you. I loved you. Okay? I have loved you, or I love you. I want you to look that up on the blb.org. Okay? And look up I love you. And I have loved you. Okay? And I mean, because he does. He loves you so much. I love you, and I know that he gave me this love when I was little, and I had so much love for people. I just wanted to go hug them. I wanted to go hug everybody. And I loved animals, and I understood them. Even at 3 years old, I understood that they were special, they had souls, and that they didn't know, that it was my fault whenever I got a puppy in trouble, when a puppy bit me in the face. A dog bit me in the face, and I knew it wasn't his fault, and I wasn't afraid of him. After that, I loved animals, always loved animals, and understood them, and more than I have people. But he gives that understanding, because they're his too, and don't want to worship him though. No, we got to make God, put him back in our lives the way he's supposed to be, as the one we go to, the number one, first love. And I just pray that you guys are blessed through this, and I just want to tell you I love you, and I just praying that we all can come together in his faith and his commandments and his truth and righteousness, and through his Holy Spirit. Shabbat Shalom.